Thank you.
Good. Well, first of all, we officially will do apologies for absence. So there's just one, is there?
Yes, Councillor Salt is not present, Chair.
Do we need to do a roll call? What we usually do in our council
I suppose
meeting.
the issue is, Chair, is that there are 2 new members, although I think you've actually seen beforehand, and the details are on the screen there. So if members are comfortable, then you could just go straight on to apologies for absence.
I think we know everybody, don't we? Sure.
Yeah, yes. It's just for anybody who's live streaming, it's just to make sure that we are here. But,
in terms of this, Chair, all the members are here. In terms of, if you move on to apologies, the only we've got an apology from Matt Broughton, who's unable to attend the meeting today, the officer from the Joint ICT Service.
Okay, thanks, Alan. Any declarations of interest in items on the agenda?
None have been received, Chair.
No. Okay, so we'll move on to item 3, the minutes of the last meeting. Has everybody read the minutes? Is everybody happy with them? Do they want to make any changes or?
They look
Nobody.
really. I'll move them.
Thank you. Can we have a second, please?
I'll second them, Chair.
Okay. Shall we vote by hands up, Alan?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yes, that's unanimous, Chair.
Good, thank you. Item 4 is the quarterly report of the Joint ICT Service, quarter 4, 2020 to 21, January to March, 20 to 21. That's pages 7 to 30 in the pack. Would you have to give us your report now, please, Nikki?
Yeah. Hello, welcome everybody. Just want to provide a summary of the quarterly service report for the Joint ICT Service for quarter 4, which covers the period of January this year to the end of March. Most of you will be familiar with the format. I know we've got Councillor Parkin and Councillor Kenyon have joined us recently. So I'll just go over an overview really without going into too much detail for you, but obviously ask questions as and when you would like. The first 2 graphs show the number of service requests and incidents that the service has received over the quarter. Key points to note with this is that the total number of incidents and service requests raised remained high throughout the quarter. The trend is decreasing slightly. The service is receiving on average 10% additional calls per month compared to the pre-COVID figures. This is down from 18%, which was seen in the increase from last quarter. The next 2 graphs show the number of outstanding calls. These are ones that are yet to be resolved. Key points to note on this is that the total number of outstanding calls has remained consistently high over the past 3 months, with January seeing the highest. Some focus has been put on resolving outstanding calls to bring this back down to levels, but the levels are still remain high. The majority of the outstanding calls are service requests rather than incidents, so they're sort of more lengthy requests rather than incidents that we're having to action. Due to continually high numbers of calls since the COVID outbreak, it's likely to take some time to reduce the outstanding call list to the pre-COVID levels. And as predicted, this is impacting the SLA in some way. This is as older calls get resolved, there will be an increase in percentages of calls which will fail the SLA. The next graph shows the first key performance indicator. It shows the number of incidents or service requests that are closed within the target time. As anticipated, there were some breaches to the SLA seen in February due to the increased workloads and the impact of resolving outstanding calls. However, there was no breaches in January and March. The 2 breaches in February saw that Bolsover was just under by 3% at the target and North East at 10%. The SLA target for first-time fixed resolutions was exceeded throughout the quarter. Moving on to outages section, this is where we report on major outages, which we class as priority 1, which has an impact on staff from across the authority, such as a network outage, or priority 2 incidents, which impacts multiple users of a department, for example, the finance application going down. We had 2 priority 1 incidents, one in January, which was a short internet outage of less than 2 hours, and one in March, which was a telephony issue at Bolsover. We diagnose each of these incidents, we make recommendations and implement any actions to prevent future outages or to improve our response to these outages. On to projects. Joint ICT project time is still high over the last quarter, as all authorities are facing similar challenges. For example, work on security improvements and upgrades to major systems is done on all three authorities. The percentage time spent on projects was on average above the 35% target during Q4. The full project register can be seen in Appendix 2, and I have highlighted a summary of some of the major projects on the quarterly service report. Next, go on to the Joint ICT budget for the financial year 2021. That's shown on the report. The Joint ICT service budget was underspent last financial year by just under £80,000. The reasons for this were due to delays due to internal recruitments. The termination payment was completed early due to legislative changes, and there was a vacant 0.5 service desk post. Also reduced travel costs due to agile working, vacant senior application developer post, and the variable income that we get from overtime costs, which are billed to the appropriate authority. I would like to ask the committee members to recommend what happens to the underspend. We normally do this at the end of the year. And the options being, option 1, return the proportionate underspend back to each authority, or option 2 would be to reinvest the money back into the joint ICT service. The percentages and amounts this equates to for each authority are shown on the report. So, for instance, for North East, it's 36,000, just over 36,000. For Bolsover, it's just over 26,000, and for Derbyshire Dells, it's just over 16,000. My recommendation would be to reinvest the money back into the service for the following reasons. To assist with the Microsoft 365 project rollout. The Microsoft 365 project requires much resource to be dedicated to it to implement the rollout successfully and in a timely manner to all three authorities. We're recovering from the additional demands placed on the service due to COVID-19 and the requirement to work in a more agile way. We would therefore like to consider using some of the underspend to invest in consultancy or temporary resources to assist with the Microsoft 365 project. Also, we would like to invest in products and services which will enhance the security of the ICT services. Cybersecurity is an ever-increasing threat to local authorities. The resources required to manage these threats is increasing, and with new ways of working rapidly introduced since COVID lockdown, the service would like to look to invest in new products or services to enhance the security platform and, where possible, reduce officer resources to administer these products. As all three councils face similar challenges, the reinvestment proposals above will be expected to be proportional to the number of people being supported, and therefore it would make sense to approach it as a joint investment from the joint ICT budget rather than individual client budgets. Any additional proposals to invest the money will be brought to the committee for recommendation before pursuing. Therefore, I would like to like the committee members to advise which option they would recommend. Either option 1, return the proportionate underspend back to the authority, or option 2, reinvest the money back into the service.
I'd move, Chairman, that we reinvest it. I mean, it only saves us paying it out next time, don't it? Keep it in.
Do we have a second for that?
I'll second that, Chair.
Thank you, Karen. Karen, can I ask you a question? This refund we were expecting at Derbyshire Dales is 16,000. Have you got that in your budget as yet, or?
No, we haven't budgeted for anything to be returned. It would be a bonus, and I would support option 2 if I was asked.
Yeah. Okay, that's to retain it. To leave it in the. Yeah. Okay. Good. Well, I think we should. Shall we have a vote on that, Alan?
Yes, Chair, if members are comfortable with that.
Can it be just hands up, or do you want to go around each?
So again, just to be clear, that the motion is that the underspend should be reinvested in the joint ICT service, with any specific proposals then being brought back to the committee for consideration before final agreement by the host councils. Is that the essence of it, Nikki?
That's it, yeah.
Yeah, if you agree with the first two proposals, it's just that if I wouldn't want to sort of delay it. If we were to invest it in the Microsoft 365 project or in a security product. I mean, I'm happy, you know, if I can send it by email. I'm not sure what the procedure is. If I can send it by email and everybody approves it, then fine.
Yeah,
Nikki, can I ask how much of the 79,000 would be needed for that?
I'm not totally sure. I wouldn't expect we're actually speaking to vendors at the moment to find out what the increased costs will be for the security that we need. And regarding the Microsoft 365, I think it would perfectly be enough to cover it, but I can always come back later if that's the way you prefer to do it.
Yes, I think that would be best. Yeah. Okay, so it's been moved and seconded, so we'll have a vote. Is it vote by hands, Alan?
I think so, Chair, if members are comfortable with that. So this is voting for. That is unanimous, Chair.
Good, thank you. Well, thanks for that, Nikki. Are there any other questions for Nikki, please?
Yes, Chair, I'd like to just ask a question, if that's okay.
That's fine, yeah.
Nikki, looking at the response figures and the charts, it occurs to me that the agile working of the staff during lockdowns and agile working, shall we say, may have impacted, and the type of calls you're getting could also have been impacted by the fact that we are using agile working. Are you able to attribute any of those extra calls that you might have received from home workers, shall we call them, to any of the blips in the chart?
In relation to what? I'm not quite sure which blips are you referring to?
Okay, so the February rise in particular, the rise in calls then.
Not that I'm aware of. We have to scrutinise it quite often when we look at the rising calls, and we don't normally see a pattern relating to anything specific. As far as I'm aware, there was nothing specific that was rolled out differently at that period of time.
Yeah, in many ways, that's a relief, Nikki.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Gary, I see you've got your hand up. Have you got a question?
I was going to move it, but Steve beat me to it.
Yeah. Okay. I can't see any other hands up. Are there any more questions for Nikki? No, doesn't seem so. Good. Well, thanks very much for that, Nikki.
Thank
very
you.
interesting and very full report.
I've just got a couple more bits to go through, if that's okay. Sorry, Chair. I thought it was appropriate to mention that recommendation whilst we were talking about the budget. There's just a couple of bits I'll just go through. I won't keep too long. Cost saving plan, nothing's changed on there. We've got a couple of things. So North East, we can reduce the cost through SIP, moving from the more expensive ISDN to the SIP lines for the telephony. At the moment, it's been delayed a little bit because of resources, and also because it's dependent on other projects such as new firewall and the internet link. There's also the internet link, which will result in some savings, but not till later on in the year. Security report, there was nothing. No reportable security incidents logged. I can provide an update on the phishing training exercise, which we spoke about last year, but it had to be postponed due to the impact of COVID. We have the technical infrastructure set up. We are managing some campaigns at the moment, and hopefully I'm expecting that I can bring an update to the committee on the next quarter on how successful it was, etc. In the meantime, we continue to provide additional training or send out emails when we become aware of specific targeted phishing attacks that come through. Service development, despite the additional demands placed on the service since last March, the feedback from user group service managers and senior management has been very positive and complimentary. The biannual joint ICT user survey was conducted at the beginning of this year, and the overall user satisfaction results were all about above 80%, the 80% target. They're shown at the bottom of the report. So for Bolsover, we got 85% overall satisfaction. Derbyshire Dales was 97%, North East 96%, and Ricknold Homes was 90%. This is a fantastic achievement considering the challenges we've been faced since March last year, and the large-scale changes that we've had to make on how people use technology, which has enabled many roles to effectively work remotely. I think this is credit to the dedication of the team. They have ensured that we've been able to provide an excellent service. We're going to collate all the responses from the user survey to develop a user survey action plan, and that will be used to continue to improve the service further. That's it from me. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Nikki. I'll ask you again, are there any more questions about the second part of Nikki's presentation?
Councillor Kenyon's indicating, Chair.
Okay. Councillor Kenyon.
I'd just ask, is the recruitment still on hold for the, and if so, why, for that developer?
That's Kristen's post. So unfortunately, Kristen's not here at the moment. I think there was some HR issues with it, but I'd have to get back with a proper answer because it's not the post that in my team.
I'll check with Kristen, thanks.
Yeah, it may be that I may have worded it slightly. It might not be that it's on hold. It's there's something that's holding it up.
I can't see any more hands up. Are there any more questions for Nikki? No, sounds not. Well, thanks again, Nikki, and sorry for cutting you off.
No problem. Thank you all.
Right, so the next item, urgent items, Alan. Have we got anything?
I've not. Sorry, Councillor Lilly, have you indicated?
Yeah, basically, just like to apologise for late coming in. I've been having trouble logging in, and it keeps throwing me back out. So if I disappear, I'm having a little problem.
Okay, thanks. Thanks for letting us know. So we're urgent items, Alan. Did you say the word?
I've not received any, Chair. No.
Okay. So the last item is the date and time of the next meeting. Have we got a date in yet? Or?
We've sent some. To apologise there. We sent some meeting requests round. I think the first one that you should have received would be for the 5th of July, which would then be the annual general meeting of the committee.
Okie doke. So we changed chair then, don't we?
Yeah, at that point, North East Derbyshire would take the chair, and Bolsover would be the vice chair nominee. Now, as members are aware, the position's going to change in terms of virtual meetings. So as things stand, we'd be looking to arrange that meeting as a physical meeting at one of the 3 councils. Now, if you remember, prior to the COVID lockdown, the pattern was that we would actually hold it basically in rotation at each of the councils. I would suggest, well, I think that the next one on the list, albeit there's been a year's gap on that, would be Bolsover. Would members be comfortable with that? Again, we would need to actually check the availability of the chamber and such like matters. Sorry, Chair, Councillor Kenyon's indicating.
Yeah.
Yeah, Councillor.
Sorry, thank you. You might have had this discussion in a previous meeting about, do we want to try to continue with virtual meetings? My personal preference will be mostly yes, but with the occasional physical meeting. But as I understand it, it would have to be an informal meeting unless they change the legislation. And I just wonder what's the number of meetings that we formally have to have as a board? Is it?
Well, at the moment, I think actually the committee decided it wanted 4 meetings during the course of the year, but that could be changed. I think the only thing that you really need to do would be to have an annual meeting.
Yeah. So the next meeting is 2 o'clock on the 5th.
Yeah.
Is that right?
2 o'clock on the 5th.
Bowls over.
Yeah.
Chair, can I just touch on the virtual meeting point Councillor Kenyon's raised?
Yeah.
The appeal was lost, and the fact is that they've dictated that government have got to provide primary legislation for any future virtual meetings. So as you touched upon, the only way you could have virtual meetings is informally. We've chosen not to do that at Derbyshire Dales because we didn't feel it gave any benefit. It doesn't get a decision out, and so we've gone delegated. We're very, very hopeful that the infections won't rise in this country, but I think we have to give a caveat that we have to watch that situation.
I mean, again, I think we'd need to discuss outside of the meeting in terms of the wider response to the development. But I mean, it would be possible, because this happens in other bodies, where we would actually just go and become an informal meeting, and the quarterly service report and any other issues were dealt with that way. That obviously means that you wouldn't actually be able to take formal decisions, but we would in those circumstances still be able to report back what your views were.
Yeah, is that okay, Gary?
Yes, fine. I mean, it's down to joint decision, of course, but I'm just doing our perspective, and it's a situation that will change, I'm sure.
Yes, Chairman, you're absolutely right. There is still a goodly way before the annual meeting, so we'll be further in touch with members on this.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is July the 5th, so I think it's a date in June, isn't it, where the restrictions cease to apply?
I believe that's the 21st of June, Chair.
Yeah. So it should be okay for a physical one then. But
Chair, Councillor Lilly is trying to catch attention. Councillor Lilly is trying to catch attention.
Councillor Lilly, would you like to speak?
Yeah, basically it's just a question with respect to venues. Before we actually went on lockdown, we were having problems at North East Derbyshire in particular with the sound in the council chamber, and I requested at that time that we actually conduct the meetings in a position where maybe I can hear. On this situation, I can hear pretty much perfectly if everybody sort of keeps in line in only one speaking at once. But if we do go back into meeting up in situ, can you tell me, Alan, as the surround sound or the sound system being altered at North East, I understood that it was in the process, but I've heard nothing about it since.
Yeah, as I understand it, Chair, there were some improvements which were in the pipeline. Obviously, I think they may have gone on hold as a consequence of the pandemic and essentially sort of the close down of meetings. I'll get that checked, but I would have thought that in the first instance, if we were to have wholly physical meetings, if the first of the meetings was to be at Bolsover, assuming it's available, then perhaps also then at at Derbyshire Dales, if that was available. That would mean that the third meeting was later in the year at North East Derbyshire, at which point hopefully the improvements would be well and truly made. So if members were comfortable with that?
Okay, everybody happy with that?
Yep.
Good. So we've got the date and time fixed, and we'll find out later whether it's physical or another method of virtual. So that's the end of the agenda. Thank you very much, Nikki, for your presentation. Thank you for councillors for attending and participating, and thanks, Alan, for organising.
Thank you, Chair.
Good night.
Yes.